Hello, welcome to Made with Love by Daisy. Today, I will be showing you how to do the Y knot stitch. I created this stitch while designing this top. I've used this stitch along the shoulders and the sleeves. This stitch is not as difficult as it looks. It uses only 4 stitches: DC, Y stitch, inverted Y stitch, and a DC cluster. For today's video, I will be using Laura knitting cotton along with a 4mm hook. Let's get started. So the Y knot stitch is made in multiples of 3 plus 4 chains. So I'm going to start chaining in multiples of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Oops, my yarn ball ran away. And so after chaining in multiples of 3, I'm going to add 4 more chains in the end. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So here I have a total of 15 plus 4, that's 19 chains. So let's do the first row. Yarn over and make a DC into the 4th chain from the hook. And continue making a DC in each chain across. So here I've finished my first row of DCs. I'm going to chain 1, pull the yarn tight, and cut the yarn because I don't need that color immediately. So the next row is going to be a row of Y stitches, for which I will be using this lovely yellow color. Begin by making a slip knot. So for this row, for the row of Y stitches, we need the row height to be the same as that of a treble crochet. So I'm going to make a standing treble crochet. I'm going to do that by wrapping my yarn twice around the hook with my finger still holding the slip knot. Insert the hook into the very first DC, that is the chain 3 that we skipped in the beginning, and make a treble crochet. So here is our standing treble crochet. So let me show you once again. So we have a slip knot, and this chain 3 that we skipped in the beginning, which counts as a stitch, will be the very first stitch. So we'll be working the first stitch into that chain 3. So while you're still holding the slip knot with your index finger, wrap the yarn around the hook twice as if you're going to make a treble crochet. Insert your hook into the top of the chain 3, yarn over and pull up a loop. So you now have 4 loops on the chain, and make a treble crochet. So here's our standing standing treble crochet. Now to make the Y stitch, wrap the yarn around the hook twice, skip the next DC, the second DC, and insert your hook into the third DC. So the first DC has the treble crochet, we've skipped the second DC, and into the third DC we've inserted the hook and pulled up a loop. So yarn over, make a treble crochet. Now then chain one, and what we're going to do is yarn over and insert the hook into these two legs at the bottom of the treble crochet. Let me show you again. So here is the treble crochet we just made. So yarn over and insert your hook into these two horizontal bars. Yarn over and pull up a loop. So you now have 3 loops on your hook. Make a DC. So your very first Y stitch is finished. So let me show you again. So wrap and wrap. To make the second Y stitch, we will skip 2 DCs. So skip 1, 2 and into the third stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Make a treble crochet. Chain 1. Yarn over, insert your hook into these 2 bars at the bottom of the treble crochet, pull up a loop, and now complete a double crochet. So continue working like this till the end of the row, and I will show you how to complete this row. So I have completed my very last Y stitch, and I have 2 DCs left. So I will skip the next DC, wrap and wrap, go into the very last DC and make a treble crochet. So this is how we make row 2. And I'm going to cut this yarn as I don't need it immediately again. The next row is going to be the DC clusters, for which I'm going to be using this bright contrasting thread. Begin by making a slip knot. We're going to start with the standing DC. So hold your slip knot with your index finger, yarn over, insert your hook into the very first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So you will have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, finish the DC. Now chain 1 and into this very first Y stitch we will be making a DC cluster. So for our DC cluster we're going to yarn over, insert your hook into the chain 1 space, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. So we're going to repeat this 2 more times. Yarn over, insert your hook into the chain 1 space, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to do that 1 more time. So yarn over, insert your hook into the chain 1 space, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. You should be having a total of 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. So here's our very first DC cluster. Now chain 2 and make another cluster into the next Y stitch. So 1, 2 and 3, and pull it together. Chain 2. I'm going to go ahead and complete this row, and I will meet you at the end of this row. I have completed the very last DC cluster. Now chain 1 and make a DC into the treble crochet at the end of the row. So that is the end of our DC cluster row. So I'm cutting that yarn because I don't need it again. So the next row is going to be the inverted Y stitch. We'll start very similar to the Y stitch row. So make a slip knot. And we're going to start with the standing treble crochet because the row height is the same as that of a Y stitch. So wrap and wrap. Insert your hook into the very first stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. So you have 4 loops on the hook. And make a treble crochet. So here is our standing treble crochet. So we're now ready to begin the inverted Y stitch. Now there are many ways of doing the inverted Y stitch. For this particular project, I'm doing it in a different way so that the Y stitch and the inverted Y stitch are the exact same height. So if you're doing this project or you're using this stitch for another project, please do the stitch the way I am showing you now. So now chain 1. Yarn over twice, insert your hook into the space before the very first DC cluster and pull up a loop. Now you have 4 loops on your chain, on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, insert your hook into the chain space after the DC cluster, yarn over and pull up a loop. So you will now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So you now have 4 loops on your hook. Now this is where the inverted Y stitch we are doing is going to be different. Traditionally, for the next step, you would yarn over and work off these 4 loops 2 at a time. But we're not going to do it 2 at a time. We're going to yarn over and pull through 3 loops on the hook. We're doing this so that the height of the inverted Y is the same as the Y stitch. If you do it the traditional way, the inverted Y will end up a little longer than the Y stitch. And it won't look pretty, that's all. It's not wrong to do it that way. It's just, it looks better if it's the same height. So now that we yarned over, pull through 3 loops, we have 2 loops left on the hook, yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. So we've made our very first inverted Y stitch. Now chain 2. Now we're going to go on to the next Y stitch. So yarn over twice, insert the hook into the chain space before the DC cluster, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert your hook into the chain space after the DC cluster, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 3 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So this is how you make the inverted Y stitch. I'm going to go ahead and complete this row, and I will see you at the end of this row. So we've made our final inverted Y stitch. Chain 1 and make a treble crochet into the DC at the end of the row. Now we are finished with this color. Now we're at the last row of the Y knot stitch. So make a slip knot, and we're going to begin the row with a standing DC. So holding your slip knot with your index finger, yarn over and insert your hook into the very first stitch and pull up a loop and make a standing DC. The reason why I prefer doing standing DC and standing treble crochet is because it gives you a very straight edge. If you're not comfortable doing the standing DC and the standing treble crochet, you can always do a chain 3 and a chain 4 instead. So I've made the first standing DC. Now make 1 DC into the chain space before the first Y. So make the next DC into the Y stitch. I mean the inverted Y stitch. Damn. And then make 2 DCs into the chain 2 space. So we're going to continue working this way across. So 1 DC into the inverted Y stitch, 2 DCs into the chain 2 space. So we've reached the last Y stitch. So make 1 DC into the chain 1 space after the last Y stitch, and then 1 DC into the treble crochet at the end of the row. And you can fasten off. So this is how you make the Y knot stitch. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. So if you like this video, like, comment, share, and of course don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, so that you will get notifications about new videos. And if there is any other stitch for which you would like me to make a tutorial, let me know in the comment section. I will do it for you. Until then, happy hooking!